I was so pure, and they took that away from me, I felt like, because from then on, after I got the plastic surgery consultant, after living in Korea and being constantly criticized for everything that I am, I started to doubt myself a lot in anything that I do. I was very, I just had no self-esteem for any creative choices, any life choices, anything. Like even the way I looked, I just was constantly just insecure about everything.
You know, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. We have a very special guest today. You know, usually when we do these podcasts, I always bring in like a couple of set regulars, but I actually haven't seen this young lady in the longest fucking time. And you're so grown. You're such a big ass girl now, dude.
Life happens.
We have Megan Lee, dude. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, you know, surviving like everyone else.
When I first met you, did you were on YouTube first, or were you on the music scene first?
I was on YouTube first. I started my channel when I was 13 years old.
Fucking shit.
Yeah.
13 years old?
Even when I think about it, I'm like, damn, that was crazy.
What year was that? What year was that when you were 13?
So that was like 11 years ago. So if I do, 2009.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
You actually started YouTube before I did.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy.
Oh, did I really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think you started a year before I did.
I wasn't like super active until I was like 14, 15 though.
He's so fucking young. I wasn't super active until I was 14.
It's
14, 15. That's so fucking funny.
15 though.
How old are you now?
I'm 24.
Fucking shit.
Yeah.
Man, you a big ass girl. Did you go to college and everything?
I didn't go to college. Well, I took
fuck college, you know.
I mean, I still have it at the back of my head. Mm-hmm. I do wish to have time to go back to college, but the thing is that like I don't know exactly what I would want to study. I don't want to study music. I don't want to study acting or film. I want to do something that's completely different, and that I would have a lot of passion for.
Well, I mean, if you don't know what you want to go to college for, don't go to college.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time and dedication, and I just don't want to like have added stress.
Do you feel like you missed out on an experience from not going to college? Because I feel like that's a lot of people's regrets.
Yes and no. I didn't go to high school either. I was homeschooled. Because
damn, you didn't go to high school either?
No.
Damn, girl, you ain't been bullied yet?
I had a very interesting life, I think I can say, because I started being exposed to like the public at a very young age. So like I started acting when I was 10 years old, and I did a lot of commercials. I was always like on like local TV, and like kids at school recognized me. I got made fun of it for it, actually a lot, but
kids are so fucking mean, dude.
Yeah, they're like, I saw you on a Kids Pop commercial.
Yeah.
And then I just like, I love music, so I wanted to like express myself, and I discovered YouTube and all of like our favorite YouTube artists from back in the day, like the Asian American community, and I got inspired to like make my own videos and kind of got started through there.
Whose choice was it for you to go through homeschool? Was that something that you wanted or your parents wanted?
It was kind of both, because while I was acting, I started getting more, I started getting busier towards like 15, 16 years old going into high school.
Yeah.
And I realized that my local high school, they were very strict because they were a charter school. They were strict on attendance. So knowing that I missed school a lot, especially during middle school, it's just not acceptable. They're going to give me automatic Fs if I miss a certain amount of classes. So,
I thought they would do the thing where you get to take your work somewhere else. Like if you have... They
did have a program called Independent Studies. So I did that for a year. And then I moved to Korea. So I moved to Korea like towards the first year, the end of the first year of high school. And I became homeschooled since then.
That's fucking nuts, man. Like I feel like a big part of me growing up, like even though I don't remember everything from high school, high school was a huge part of me that helped molded who I was today, right? Yeah. In terms of adversity, dealing with like social awkwardness, you know, that weird love phase, that dating phase, liking the girl in high school that you're kind of scared to meet up and talk to and stuff. I mean, for you, I mean, that's something that you were exempt from, right? So I mean, how does that work for you then? Like when you were, I mean, when you're in that age from what, 14 all the way till 18, right?
Yeah.
How does the dating experience happen for you?
It was non-existent.
Okay.
I didn't really date. I didn't date at all actually in high school. During those years,
really,
because I moved to Korea. I did a little singing competition show. I don't know if you knew about that, but I did that and I got signed to a label, and so I lived there for 4 years. So all throughout my high school years, I was in Korea, and I don't. In some ways, I feel like I didn't really miss out that much from high school because I feel like I kind of got like punched in the face with life in general at a like very fast all at once at such a young age.
That's the difference though. It's like high school is where you're allowed to be a kid, and so I think for you, you were kind of forced to be a grown up so fucking fast.
Yeah,
you know. And
I had my moments where I was still able to have fun because at the end of the day, like I knew that's what I wanted. I knew that I wanted.
Which is great, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be an entertainer. Like whatever it took for me to like do what I love to do, and at that time, it was to go to Korea and like be a singer there.
What was the show that you were on?
It was called Wiren Hanseng, which translates to great birth of a star in Korean.
Is that like American Idol?
It was like more like The Voice because they had like mentorship.
Oh,
yeah.
Who's your mentor?
Park Jong-hyun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn, that's fucking crazy, dude. Did that make you super nervous?
Yeah. Oh, hella. Like, and the worst part was that I sucked at Korean. I didn't speak a lick of Korean. My pronunciation was trash.
Yeah.
I sounded like a whitewashed person for sure. I was constantly criticized for not being able to speak Korean well. So that was like a really big stress for me living in Korea, like a huge culture shock being on the show.
Were you criticized by your peers, or was it criticized just by Korean people in Korea in general?
In general. Yeah, in the media and also like on set, like by the takka, like the writers, producers, staff on the show. They would always be like, Megan, you have to practice your Korean more. But like, yeah, I mean, it's a thing in Asia where like they expect you to like
100%. And it's funny because
know the mother language.
I only know of this because of Korean people that come to the United States and they judge you, right? And I'm like, bitch, you're in fucking America, bitch. I'm judging you. Like the fuck? Which is so odd. Like I never understood why, specifically like in Korea, they're so particular about it. Like they like just seem
they're very judgmental,
especially like kyopos. Like they fucking
but
don't like the fact that you can't speak the language, even though they know your backstory. They go, you could tell them like, bro, I was born in the United States, and it's like for them that would be like me saying like, well, you came to the United States when you were fucking, I don't know, 15 years old and you can't speak English and I should shit on you for that.
Yeah.
You know, which is a very odd thing.
It is. And so dealing with that was definitely stressful living there. A lot of cultural shock, a lot of language barriers. It was really hard for me to really express myself. I feel like those years to me are actually very vivid. Like how you were saying, you don't really remember your high school years. For me, like, it was so impactful that like till this day, like I still remember a lot of details of like my experiences being in Korea and just like being a teenager there. And it's because like I felt like I didn't have a voice. Like I was constantly, like I'm naturally a people pleaser, and like being in Korea, like there is that like hierarchy, like respecting your elders.
That's good in Korea. Like people like people pleasers in Korea. They like the hierarchy of the younger person, you know, respecting the older person.
See, I knew that it benefited me because I knew that like, oh, I just have to be takke, I have to be a good person.
No, people would hate me in Korea, dude. I'd be problematic as fuck.
But the thing is that I lost my voice. Like I felt like I didn't deserve to have an opinion. I couldn't speak out. I couldn't make even creative decisions on my own. Like when I was on this show specifically, they didn't allow me to sing an English song because I don't know why. But they had other Korean singers, Korean American singers too, that sang English songs. And I really wanted to sing an English song to really showcase like my style and the type of music that I like to sing. And I really love R&B, pop, soul music. And I really wanted to sing a Christina Aguilera song. Yeah. And they didn't let me. And they would just give me like songs that I've never heard of before and just make me sing it on the spot and just like purposely try to like, I don't know, like embarrass me because I couldn't speak Korean.
You know, it's so fascinating when I hear that because I had another friend who was on a a Korean show as well, right? She probably doesn't want me to say her name, so I won't say her name. But she did one of these contestant shows, right? And she spoke. I have yet to meet somebody who has been on one of those Korean shows that talked about a good experience. And it's you know, at first it's like first it's kind of like, okay, maybe it's just one person. Yeah. But when it's about 2, 3, or 4 people now, and they say the same things, it makes me wonder what goes on in this industry right now, and specifically how, you know, the Korean work culture is and how they treat people who are quote unquote subordinates. Now, there's a lot of Korean people who listen to this in Korea, and, you know, they have a lot of Korean pride, and they might come out and defend this. I'm talking about personal stories, so you can go fucking die for all I care. But this is really no, because there's always like some kind of fuck.
Welcome to the show.
There's always some kind of fuck out there. They go, well, you never. I'm not talking about my experience. I'm talking about with these people. I've had one-on-one conversations with them about people who have been in this industry. And this is how it is for any kind of entertainment industry, but specifically in Korea, it seems really harsh. Like after she was done with being a contestant on the show, she spoke of how they kind of just tossed her off like she was garbage. Like after she was done, they didn't, number one, she doesn't speak any Korean at all, you know, and she doesn't know how to get around. The only relative that she had in Korea was her grandmother. And so she was there, and they're like, okay, well,
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you're kicked off the show, and they just left her off in the middle of the street, and that was it. Like,
yep, that happens.
Like, what the fuck is that? Like, the fact that they couldn't even treat her like a respectable human being is the most aggravating thing. And even with her, I've heard other stories of another girl who, very talented musician, and she was scouted, and they loved her music, they loved her style. She definitely had some stuff that people in Korea didn't have, and she had a lot to offer. But they wanted her to get surgery to change certain things about her face, and she said no. So they said, we're good. You know what I mean? Like, how the fuck?
And it seems to happen a lot to women. Oh, specifically with these types of shows. Like, and that's what I've seen the bias. I've seen like the discrimination. I definitely felt the discrimination. Like, I saw other peers who were in my position, Korean American, didn't really know how to speak Korean well, but they were male, and they were always more favored by the staff on the shows. And to me, they'd be like, to another guy that speaks probably worse Korean than I do, they'd be like, oh my God, you're so cute. Oh, haha, you're so funny. It's so charming that you don't speak Korean well. It's okay, you'll learn. And then to me, like, you piece of shit.
What is that? Because just another personal story. I'm not going to say anything. Well, actually, you know, Mariel will speak about this on a podcast maybe when she comes on later. But my fiance spoke about not so much in Korean culture, but in Japanese culture too. It's also like that as well. Specifically, how they speak to and treat women in the company. Right. She told me of this really quick story. I'm just going to paraphrase it. Where essentially, you know, she worked for a Japanese a company that came to America, and it was a food company. It was a food conglomerate, right? And she is like the liaison for American culture. And so her opinion really does matter, especially when it comes to the workspace and how they treat employees. Oh, yeah. So, you know, she kind of said her opinion about, you know, how things go about here. And one of the male guys looked at her and basically straight up said to her in Japanese, like, you're a woman, why are you even talking? You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of stuff
I can't.
That, you know, and I feel like those are the similarities, the very bad similarities in Japanese and Korean work culture that happens a lot. Yeah. And it's weird because they're kind of bringing you on, and you guys are singing like American songs and shit, and they know that you're from America, but yeah.
I think nowadays, in the recent years, it has gotten a little better from what I hear and what I see in the media, but they're still so behind when it comes to the change in like the work culture in general.
Was it hard for you specifically because you were so young? Right?
Yeah, it was very confusing. I just didn't know how to react. I just know that I felt horrible about it, and the worst part was, like, at the time, like, I thought I deserved to feel horrible. Like, you know what I mean? It was, I just didn't know how to react exactly.
So kind of like how they made you feel, you felt like it was your fault?
Yeah. And so I constantly felt like I had to, like, better myself. That was actually my motivation. So I actually did learn Korean. I speak reasonably well, like, conversationally. Yeah. But it took a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears because of the constant criticizing. I think I could have spoke even better Korean if they were like really nice about it and more encouraging. Yeah. But because they're just so bashing, I'm just like crying, and for me, I guess I had a pretty
This podcast is brought to you by Purple, my friends. Have you been sleeping on a piece of turd your whole life? I guarantee you have not been sleeping on a Purple mattress, let alone any Purple product, because their products are absolutely amazing. If you've ever received a Purple product before, you already know about the technology. You already know about that mesh integrated cooling stuff, that rocket science technology that was developed to keep you comfortable. I've had the worst sleeps of my life until I met up with my Purple. The Purple technology and this stuff is really, really crazy, especially for somebody like me who has been sleeping on really, really hard beds. And on top of that, I get really hot, and the Purple technology keeps me super cool. So kudos to that. Well, my friends, experience the Purple Grid and you'll sleep like never before. Go to purple.com/GB10 and use promo code GB10. For a limited time, you'll get 10% off any order of $200 or more. That's purple.com/GB10. Promo code GB10 for 10% off any order of $200 or more. Terms apply.
Tough skin, I guess, for a 15-year-old. So
Yeah.
I just I took it and I used it as fuel to just learn Korean.
I was just telling him I'm Chinese. I'm just like, I'm Chinese. This is what you get. This is pretty good for a fucking Chinese guy. That's what I do. If I go to Korea and somebody gives me shit about my fucking Korean, I'm slapping them in the fucking face. Like,
also, my motivation was I knew that I wanted to be a singer in Korea. And so I knew that if I'm going to be a singer here, I'm going to have to learn the language anyway. So it's just I knew that it was a price to pay. Just got to pay my dues and stuff.
Who's like the one that's kind of, I mean, when I see you as a 14 or 15-year-old girl and you're in Korea, you're going through all these emotions, specifically a lot of self-esteem issues because of how these people are talking to you, specifically as a young woman out there.
Yeah.
Who's like the one that's in your corner then, that's kind of giving you a lot of good advice, that's helping you and supporting you?
My mom.
Oh, your mom was out there with you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I don't think I would have survived if my mom wasn't there.
That's great.
Yeah. So I was really, really lucky. I've heard other stories from people my age who were out in Korea trying to pursue music there as well. And they didn't have their parents. They didn't have a family member to be their moral support. And it's freaking hard, you know, being that young to be out there and be so bashed and criticized and have life thrown at you all at once. I was able to survive because of my mom, honestly.
What kind of things were said to you specifically? What would they say to you?
Everything from my Korean to the way I sing to my looks, everything. Pretty much they just criticize every aspect of me.
What would they say about your looks?
So I did get signed to a label there,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a trainee for 2 years, and then I debuted. In my label, I actually got plastic surgery consultation, and they just literally drew a map of a face and just drew dotted lines. And,
Jesus.
And told me I had to cut my jaws, I had to do this to my nose, make my eyes bigger, all the typical beauty standards that you would expect from Korean celebrities. And the amount of money that it would take for me to look a certain way was just it was so big that my label was just okay, let's just go all natural.
That's
so
fucking
we gave up,
that's fucking ridiculous, man.
I was so scared though. Actually, I did do one procedure. They actually removed my mole. I had a small little, I actually really miss it. I had a small little dot. It looked like a pen mark on my face. Right. My mom really liked it too. She's it's medyok, a little charm.
Yeah.
I had one here, I had one here.
Yeah.
And if you look at my old pictures, it's gone. It's there, but now it's gone. So
that's
really
fucking crazy, man. I mean, it's so weird that they would do that to somebody so young, and they would ask you to change your face, especially when you're barely a fucking adult. You're not even an adult yet.
Yeah.
And that's something that you honestly straight up. There are some women out there, and even boys, right? But I'll say for girls.
Yeah.
There are some girls out there at your age when you were 14 or 15, you guys haven't even grown to your fucking face yet.
No.
You don't even know what you're going to look like later on.
I'm a very slow grower, I realize. I
you
went through a lot
haven't
of
changed
phases.
one bit. You went into a time capsule and you just stayed in there the whole time. So when you got this page and they're telling you this is what you have to change in your body, how did that make you feel?
I cried. I cried for a good week. I felt so ugly. From then on, I was actually a very confident kid.
Yeah.
I guess you could say I was blissfully ignorant. I was that kid that, like, I don't know if you remember, but like I wore like the craziest outfits. I had like knee-high socks that had like rainbows on them. Like I was literally like an Asian JoJo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But like not as excessive, but like I was like an Asian JoJo. Like I didn't give an F. Like I wore whatever the heck I want. I was like super bubbly. I still am, but I was so pure, and they took that away from me, I felt like, because from then on, after I got the plastic surgery consultant, after living in Korea and being constantly criticized for everything that I am, I started to doubt myself a lot in anything that I do. I was very, I just had no self-esteem for any creative choices, any life choices, anything. Like even the way I looked, I just was constantly just insecure about everything.
You know, when I have a conversation with, I didn't grow up with a lot of Korean people, so I don't know technically, like, my Korean American experience is simply from my outlook from my family. That's really about it. And what I'm finding out is that my family is actually very, very odd. Like they're not very
really?
Typically Korean.
Okay.
My mom doesn't really judge the way that I look, the way that I act or behave. She just always wanted me to be happy.
That's
which is
so sweet.
It's not very Korean from what I'm hearing from other people,
Yeah.
right? The only hardcore Korean thing was my dad. He wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, businessman.
Okay.
That's really about it. He was the hardcore, typical Korean dad.
My dad was like that too.
Yeah.
My mom was like your mom.
Yeah, which is very nice to have. That was the great balance of things. And it's kind of hard, like, listening to you, and when you're that young too, you're super impressionable, and then you have a young child that's super bright that wants to do things, and then you just tell them that they can't do anything. And it's like, how can you take that away from somebody who's supposed to be like your star? Like you're supposed to build these young people up. And when I tell these stories before all the time, right? Specifically on this podcast, and every fucking K-pop stan comes at me. They're like, what the fuck do you know? It's like, bitch, I'm in fucking entertainment. I know more about this shit than you ever fucking will. You're on the outside and you're listening to this shit, but we're talking about real life stories from people that I have met, and your story too is very congruent with a lot of these young K-pop stars that I've met, and they talk about their experiences. And I always wonder too, when people go into these situations, do people understand the trade-off that you get? You lose when a label takes over, right? And this is not just in Korea too. This is like music in general. You essentially become their product, and they want their product to be exactly the way that they want it to
essentially,
be.
that's what it is.
you know? And if you deviate from that, they're like, well, we're not getting what we asked for in this product. And they get hyper disappointed, which the hard and sad part about that is that you lose your human aspect. It's like, well, where's my voice? Is this really an art? And so when I say to people, when she's talking about her surgery situation, and I say this, and you guys get mad when I say every one of these fucking girls look exactly the same, I'm not saying it as a diss. It's a fucking fact. You know, they go to the same fucking surgeon.
There's only one kind of beauty standard in Korea. It's not like all shapes and sizes. It's not like that over there. At least not yet.
I mean, I feel it's weird because I'm watching like K-pop now, and I remember specifically in Asia, the thigh gap thing was huge.
Oh my God. Yeah.
and now the more curvaceous women are coming out, and now that's starting to be a little popularized, right? Showing a little. You know what's so weird? I saw a K-pop music video, and they were fucking like making out in that shit. Which
one?
I can't remember. I was at a restaurant, and it was very odd. It was very sexualized, and you don't really usually see that.
Yeah, it's still pretty conservative over there.
Yeah, relatively. I mean, the production value in their music video is fucking insane.
Yeah.
I think that's where like Korean entertaintment's really fucking good.
They thrive in that aspect for sure.
What was your when did you debut?
When did I debut? I think it was 2011.
How did that feel for you? Especially because you went through all this fucking bullshit.
You know what's so sad? My goal was to ultimately debut, and I was like working so hard and paying my dues to that moment, and then when I did, it didn't feel good.
Really?
No.
Why?
I mean, it felt like a relief that like, yay, I debuted, but at the time, like, more shit was going down in the company. I don't want to talk too much about the details.
Yeah.
But it was like everything was just so hyperactive negatively behind the scenes that it drove me to file a lawsuit against my company to leave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest reason why I was like unhappy. Also because I was going through vocal issues. So that's actually one of the biggest things that like has an impact to me today even. When I...
Do you have vocal notes?
I started developing vocal notes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and I still struggle with it today. And so that's why like music is like, it's a very complicated thing for me.
I mean, if they had these people training you and shit, like weren't they wary of that shit? Like vocal notes are serious shit.
They literally, this is one person in the company that was telling me that I have to sing until like my throat bleeds.
That's fucking nuts.
I was singing for hours and hours to the point it became like really unhealthy, and I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating correctly either. Like I was literally eating like half a sweet potato, some cherry tomatoes, and a small piece of tofu, and that's it.
You know what's so nuts too when I hear stuff like that? They put so much idea and thought into, you know, whatever the image of these Korean pop stars, right?
Yeah.
You can't fucking hire a fucking nutritionist. Like there's a science to this, specifically when it comes to people losing weight and being fit. There's a science to this, including rest, active rest, off days. And as a vocal teacher, they should know that too. Like you can't make somebody
The crazy
sing.
thing is that like the person that, well, there's people in the company that would give me these like diets, but also this was recommended by like, I had a personal trainer.
Okay.
And they would give me this kind of diet as well.
Is he a dumb fuck? Like there's because I lost like a sizable amount of weight, and so these nutritionists, they understand. I mean, is it because they want you to lose weight faster or what? Like what are they going for? I don't understand.
I think faster. Yeah, they a lot of Koreans kind of do that. Like a lot of weight lost in a really short amount of time, and
which is an odd thing because you're training for a couple of years, right? I mean, you could get whatever ideal body that they want in terms of fitness in 2 years is a perfect amount of time.
Yeah.
It should be a slow thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Like you have all this money, you can't hire a proper nutritionist, a dietitian, and a trainer. Like that's why the fuck not? You know? And you could do it in a healthy way. I don't understand how a vocal coach can tell you sing until your fucking throat bleeds when that's the exact opposite of what you should do. I mean, look at people like Celine Dion. She doesn't even use her voice at all. If she has a performance that week, she doesn't talk.
Yeah.
Rest.
Yeah.
People don't, these are basic concepts, specifically when it comes to singing. I don't understand why they would say that to you.
Yeah, and I think also at the same time, it was just like a lot of mental...
They're trying to break you down.
It was just like, it was just like a lot of mental breakdown, like a lot of pressure. And I just didn't know how to handle everything because it was just like a lot.
Well,
and
you're
I
like
was really
fucking
young.
15. Like, how could you handle that shit?
Yeah, and like I think also like again, it was just like the lack of self-esteem. So I wasn't able to really like keep myself stable and strong enough to the point that like without even realizing it was all of the stress was attacking my health. And so at one point right before my debut, I lost my voice and I got really sick. I got like my entire body was just sick. Like I was having like stomach issues, I was throwing up, and also because I was just like nutrition deficient.
Yeah.
And I lost my voice as well. And then I got better. I went to the ENT because I was starting to have like issues with like my singing. That was very abnormal. And I couldn't even sing my debut song comfortably. And that's obviously an issue. So like I went to the ENT and he said like, you're overusing your voice. Just like get rest. I'm like, rest.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Don't tell that to my vocal coach, huh?
I'm like,
she told me to sing till I
funny.
bleed. Yeah.
It's a joke, right?
Yeah.
And I just kind of like, I don't know. I didn't really think much of it. I really regret that so much. I wish like I was even more vocal again and more adamant about my health.
But you couldn't be though, because at that point they're grooming you to obey. And when you're that young and they break you down systematically, continuously every day, you lose your voice like you did, physically and metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
So, you as a 14 or 15-year-old, there's absolutely no way that would have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me as a 4, I was a very defiant child, but if somebody's growing me to be an obedient pet, it would be hard for me to break out of that shit too. Not everybody's going to be that. A lot of people like to talk about personal responsibility, but there's personal responsibility and there's also the reason why people do what they do at a certain point, right? So what I mean by that is that a lot of people can tell you, well, you should have just spoke up, but you weren't in that situation. You don't know what led to me being in that mental state where I couldn't speak up. So for you as a 14 or 15-year-old, this podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or is preventing you from achieving your goals? Maybe you realize that your mental health needs a boost or it's just something you haven't really focused on in your life. I personally have done online counseling and therapy and it's been great. Mental health has been a huge focus in my life, especially the past year, and it's something that I believe that people should tend to on a consistent basis. BetterHelp is great because they can match you with your own professional licensed therapist. You can schedule your sessions via phone, communicate and message online, video calls, and you can even change your counselors if needed. If you want to give this a try, of course, for my Genius Brain listeners, I got the hookup for you to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. Just type in betterhelp.com/genius to get that offer today. Once again, that's BetterHelp.com/genius to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp to a better you. I wouldn't even made that far. I would have just been like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
I wish I had that energy, honestly. I was just like...
I wouldn't have gone anywhere though.
No, but you're protecting yourself. But I was such an enabler. And there's definitely, it's perks because, you're paying your dues and you'll get to where you want to be. But at the end of the day, it destroys you. And I really do feel like that. I feel that impact. Today, I deal with a condition called MTD, muscle tension dysphonia. And it has developed over the years.
What's MTD? What is it exactly?
So basically, it's a condition where your throat would tense up a lot. The muscles around your vocal cords would tense up a lot. When you're nervous or
yes. Yeah.
Vocal fry, all that stuff. Eventually, at some point, I kind of forgot how to sing. These days, I don't sing live because it physically hurts to sing. And it hasn't always been that way from the beginning. It's just slowly developed over time. And a lot of it is also affected by my mental health as well.
Oh, so it's a psychological issue mainly?
Psychological, but also I had nodes as well.
Yeah.
And I was just so unaware of it.
That's crazy. So for people who don't know what vocal nodes are, those are that's the death call for singers, right? Yeah. And so, a lot of people think that you can just get surgery from it. Well, there's a very high chance that after you get surgery for vocal nodes, that it can change your voice forever. It'll fuck up your voice.
Yeah.
So for example, Mariah Carey, she had ridiculous vocal nodes, and you guys have heard her sing live. That shit is terrible.
It changes your voice too, the actual, the tone of your voice and the pitch of your voice too, which is why I sound a lot lower than I usually do. So yeah, and then knowing that I had this condition, at the same time, I went to the ENT earlier last year, and it was very liberating to know I actually had nodes, even though I was really sad. But at the same time, okay, at least I know what the problem is.
Yeah.
And just with more rest, I'm being more aware and conscious of how I use my voice. It doesn't help sometimes when I stream. I stream on Twitch, by the way. Yeah. Twitch.tv/HelloMeganLee. It doesn't help sometimes with hours and hours of talking. It can take a toll. But knowing that what the problem is now specifically, because back then I didn't know I didn't have nodes. It was just a small vocal tear. Yeah. And it just developed over time because I minimized it. Yeah. And so now that I know it's an actual issue and not just me.
Ooh, man, vocal tears suck. I remember because I used to go to these ridiculous parties and shit, and we'd just be screaming.
Yeah.
And then you could actually when you're vocal, when you could feel it, and I could actually taste blood sometimes. I'm like, oh shit, I think I tore some shit because we'd be screaming our fucking heads off. And so I healed from it, so it's fine. But I remember when that first happened, I was like, I think I just tore my shit.
Oh no. And then sounds like you had a good time though.
Yes, we fucking did. But that's why I hated going to clubs too. Clubs, you always have to scream so you could talk to somebody.
I avoid very loud places.
Yeah, because that shit
all the
fucks
time.
your voice up all the time. I don't do that shit anymore. It like
No.
ruins my voice. It sucks. And
It
especially when
sucks.
I was doing these fucking YouTube videos, all I was doing was screaming. That shit sucked, dude. It ruined my voice. Like, I
Yeah.
fucking hated it.
Oof.
How does it help
Dude.
with your, I mean, I think mentally, because your whole life you have been singing, and that's something that, you know, obviously you have found a way to still be involved in music, right?
Yes.
But now that performance aspect is not there, and you know you do have these vocal notes. How does that make you feel personally? Because when I'm thinking about that, I think of, you know, fighters who get really old. You know,
Yeah.
they can't do what they feel like is their kind of like their destiny to do, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes these things happen
Their
where
identity.
it gets stripped away, and then
Yeah.
you have to make adjustments. Some people don't make great adjustments, and they kind of
Yeah.
spiral. So for you, how do you deal with that?
Whew. So that is actually like the main theme of my 20s actually. So the past like 3 years, I'm 24 now. As I turned 21, I realized it was like very up and down. After I left Korea, after I left the label, I did a show on Nickelodeon, and that was a very heavily music demanding show. We had like 40 plus songs, and I was the main character, so I sang on everything. And during that show, like I felt like me again. I was
Yeah.
able to sing, and then before then, I like got some rest before starting the show. So like
And they were calling you fat and telling you to get
yeah,
surgery.
and it was like a good confidence booster. And
Yeah.
like I got to do something that I really wanted to do. Like as a kid, like I've always wanted to be on Disney or Nickelodeon, and I got the job. And so I did that, and I also like made a decent amount of money, and was able to take care of my family too. And so like it was great. And then after the show, I was doing a lot of music independently, and then I came to a point where I was starting to deal with vocal issues again, and it didn't get better. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and it started taking a toll on my mental health because I hold so much pride. I think you might understand, like as a musician, like I hold so much pride in the quality of my performances.
Yeah.
My music, I'm super, super picky, and I'm a perfectionist, and I really want to make sure that I'm always getting better. But when I see and hear myself not improving and just slowly feel like I'm getting worse, I don't even know like how to even describe the feeling of how like I started to like hate myself, and like I started to lose like my sense of identity because I really let music like define me as a whole.
Yeah.
Even though mainly acting is like my biggest passion, but I've held so much pride for my music
Yeah.
because I invested so much of my life to it.
Yeah.
And so
how do you deal with that then?
I don't know. During that time, I was just kind of living life. I think I just tried to distract myself with other aspects of life. Like I dated, and like like being 20, like I never really had a social life before. So I started like going out, meeting friends, actual people my age. Because like growing up when I was like 15, 16, like everyone was always older than me, or I just like didn't have friends at all because I was constantly working. And also I was a soloist. It's not like I had members, you know, to like be friends with. And so, yeah, I just like started living life. And that's how I coped with a lot of things, like having friends. I still kept a really good relationship with my mom, and doing music. I think I just kind of like, I just stuck it through. I just thought like, I just kept thinking it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Until it didn't. It got a lot worse now. But I actually have been starting to meditate, and it's been helping a lot. I'm not like a super religious person, but I am spiritual, and I like believe that there's something out there, like a God or some kind of like, I don't know, entity in the universe. And so mainly I just want to focus on like centering myself and staying grounded, and also just getting back that like self-love and confidence that I had when I was 13.
Have you been going to like therapy or?
I have gone to therapy, but I guess maybe because I haven't found the right person yet, it hasn't
hard.
really worked.
It takes a while. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think the biggest misconception in therapy is that you think that the first therapist that you go to is going to be the one. It's never like that.
No.
That's just like finding a church. Like
Yeah.
you cycle through a lot until you find that person that really kind of you can connect to and really open with.
I've gone to 3 different people and had multiple sessions with them, but I just haven't found the right. And then Corona hit.
Man, Corona don't help at all. Shit, especially people with social anxiety. That shit fucking sucks. You know?
But I mean, I've been very, very aware of like my mental health, and I knew that I accepted that it wasn't in the best place, and so I'm just doing whatever it takes to just really take care of myself, whether that's like meditation, and I am looking to see like online therapy as well. But there's something about like in person that just
I mean you'll find out what works for you, and this is a very interesting conversation just because you know I've had to have these conversations with a lot of people, specifically in this space when it came to YouTube. Recently, like I mentioned to you, a buddy of ours was talking about, he tweeted out that his YouTube isn't doing as well as it used to. And he's kind of sad that he's accrued so many subscribers, but you know, only he's maybe getting like 1,000 views per video, right?
That's so unfortunate. And I feel that.
The harsh reality of things, specifically when it comes to entertainment. And this is what I always tell a lot of my YouTube friends, and they kind of get sad about how their YouTube views are or how their career is going now. And some of these people, they've been on the space for 10 plus years. Yeah. And what I tell them is that, you know, television shows don't go barely past 2-3 seasons. And you've been able to do what you've been able to do with the amount of money that you've made and accrued. Whether you chose to waste it all was your choice, you know, but with all that stuff that you've done, you've been able to basically have a television show for 10 plus years. Most people don't get that opportunity, right?
Very true. Like saying it like that, wow, that's very eye-opening.
It's kind of nuts. Like people, I don't think that really sits well with people. They don't really think about that. You've essentially been able to develop your own television show, your own programming at your own accord without having to go through any red tape, no producers, nobody telling you how to do things forever. And 10 plus years of it. That's fucking crazy. Nobody gets that. Even some of the most highly successful people on YouTube now, they're here for 5 years, 6 years. They go nuts and they fucking bounce.
Wow.
You know?
That's actually so true. Wow. I feel so much better now. I feel a lot better.
It's a very crazy concept. And when I hear that and I see that, I always say too, there's a little bit of personal responsibility for us too. Things change. Tastes change. Yeah. If we're doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting better results than the initial ones that we got, then we're the ones that are insane at this point. Yes. If the platform has changed and it's not being conducive to the stuff that you like, then you either change and move with the platform or you decide to do something else. When I decided to do podcasting, it was something that a lot of these subscribers hated. I lost like 500,000 subscribers. Like they just weren't on board. They're like, we want you to do your rants or whatever. And I explained to everybody else. I didn't explain. I just kind of did it out of nowhere. I fucked up. My bad, guys. But what happened was that this platform wasn't allowing somebody like me, who's very opinionated, curses a lot, says a lot of crazy shit, to monetize. And they also wouldn't post my videos anywhere because it's so controversial, because it's not kid-friendly content, because
family-friendly.
You know what I mean? I don't got blue eyes and fucking blonde hair. No, Frodo. Anyways, but you know, I don't have these things that Google finds very marketable and also profitable. So I saw this trend and I'm like, well, either I can do something where I can change my whole content, change who I am, and still succeed on this. Because even before this whole thing happened, my views were still getting 100,000 views, 200,000 views. It was still decent, right? It wasn't like 500,000 to 1 million that it was before, but 250,000 views per video, still not fucking bad.
Yeah,
you know?
That's great.
So, but what they didn't also realize is that I didn't make a single cent off any of those videos for almost like 2 years.
Holy what?
So on average, and I'll give you guys these metrics, when I was making about 2 videos per week, doing whatever the fuck I want, enjoying it too, I was averaging maybe about $15,000 to $18,000 a month, right? And this is just 2 videos a week, right? Averaging about 200,000 views per video, because the ads were doing well, and the adpocalypse happened, and I started doing more videos per week, averaging more views, more watch time, everything else, and then my paycheck went down to about $1,900 a month. So there's this understanding that people don't get. They go, you should do these videos. We love watching it. I gotta pay bills. Like I enjoy doing those videos to a certain extent. Yeah. But $1,900 a month isn't going to keep my fucking bills on.
No.
Period. End of story.
And it's a lot of work
it's
that
a
you put
fucking
in.
shit ton of work.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm walking around vlogging and not doing stuff with it. Like I put a lot of effort into my videos and people notice it because people miss the sketches. It's like,
that's why they love it.
Yeah. They're like, you missed the sketches. Those sketches cost fucking money. Like when I shoot one of those videos, those $1,900 are gone. So what the fuck? So if I'm making about $18,000, I'm spending about $5,000 to my production. I'm okay with that. Maybe even $6,000.
Yeah.
But after a while, the platform changed a lot and I had to make a choice. So when I switched over to podcasting, it was something that I was like, number one, I enjoy doing. Number two, I love talking to people. Number three, I love hearing stories. So I'm going to switch to podcasting and I'm going to see what happens. And that was doing really well on the audio side.
Yeah.
So, for somebody like that, like my friend, like I want to tell him, like, you have to make those personal choices to make these adjustments for yourself. You can't keep beating the same fucking drum and expecting a different tune. So
times change
a lot, and it's hard to tell older people that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because we like to kind of sit in what we want to do. And when it doesn't become successful, we look at everybody else, specifically the youth, and say, oh, the youth doesn't know what the fuck is dope or whatever. Yeah. But there was a time when we were younger and we said the same thing about the older generation as well. So either you don't want to do
Boomers.
it. So if you don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine. But you can't get mad at people for not enjoying something that they've seen for 10 years over and over and over. Even I'm going to get tired of that shit.
Yeah.
And some people want me to go back to my old content, which I can, which I feel like rant and, verbal comedy doesn't really die out. It's still something that's very current. It's very political.
And you could always talk about recent events and everything like
exactly. But that shit becomes exhausting. Screaming to a fucking camera 24/7 is exhausting.
I can imagine. And also not good for your voice.
It's not good for your voice. It's not good for your mental health to be angry that all the time either.
That's so true.
And that's what happens. Like, as I got older, I became more chill. So it's like, I'm watching this stuff that's happening. And except for recently the BLM stuff, which people are like, oh, the old DavidSo's back. And then I stopped doing the videos and they're like, oh, where'd they go? It's like, I can't be angry all the time. Like, this is hard. Like, I got to worry about my mental health. I got to be happy a little more. And if I'm not really passionate or angry about specific things, it's like, I can't fake the funk. It's never been like that for me.
Oh, yeah.
So, the space has changed a lot. I mean, just to go back to what I was saying, it's like, it's hard to tell some people that not to really define who they are within their career because your career will change all the time. Yeah. Some people are very fortunate to be able to kind of do what they want to do and have it for the rest of their life. And, people have asked me, well, what's going to happen if YouTube disappears? I was like, I don't fucking care. Like, I'll figure it out. Yeah. Like, my life isn't defined by my fucking career. My career is just a small part of my life. Like, everything else in this world, there's so much this world has to fucking offer. If I disappeared, right? Nobody knew who I was tomorrow. I could give a fuck less. Like, I really could fucking care less. Right now, this podcast is great because I get to reconnect to my fans. I love the people that watch this, and this is what I enjoy a lot, right? Yeah. Going out, doing these shows, conversing with people. Yep. But if tomorrow God comes down and he goes, David, you can't do this anymore. I'm going to take this away from you. I'd be like, cool. Thank you for letting me have it for this long. I'm going to adjust. And I got to do something else because defining yourself in something that's fleeting is the worst thing that you can do. Yeah. Fighters do that shit all the time. People who live in the spotlight and they feed off of other people's energy from that type of shit, that shit all goes away. Yeah. It goes away eventually, except for maybe some of those few huge stars out there. But at the end of the day, for me, if I could find a duffel bag full of money, like $1 gajillion, I still do the podcast, but I take off all the fucking ads. I wouldn't do any of that shit. And I would just continue doing what I'm doing, whether it made money or not.
That's the dream. Yeah. Isn't that the dream?
Yeah. It's like some people would ask, like, if you made all this money, what would you do? I was like, I'd still be doing the same thing.
Same. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, also throughout the times, like, even though with YouTube, I felt a little discouraged myself as well. Yeah. Because, the music scene has died a lot throughout the years. I still had passion for, like, making content. And because also I struggle with my voice, it is physically hard to sing every week different songs and things like that, and doing original music. I also knew that I had a passion for video games, and that's why I discovered Twitch. Yeah. And I started streaming, and I knew that was, like, a very big upcoming platform. And so, like, it definitely helped to, like, move with the times in that aspect. And then, of course, I jumped the TikTok train as well. And I think it definitely helped that I started in the scene very early, so I'm able to catch on with the times pretty quick. But yeah, you made a really, really good point. And I feel like people that are in the scene listening to the podcast can definitely take something from it.
TikTok is hard for me to hop on, man. Like I was like, I did TikTok for a hot second. I was like, I can't do this shit, man.
I don't think it's not for everyone.
It's like I tried liking it and I was like, I can't like this. It's TikTok is just like Vine for me. I never liked Vine, so like it's hard for me to like TikTok.
And Vine was very short lived.
Oh, very short lived. And TikTok too, they kind of sell all your information and shit. And, you know, the whole.
I know. I don't know what's happening with that.
That shit is fucking scary to me. It's. I mean, who knows? I mean, that shit's very real. So like, I'm okay off of that type of stuff. So I decided not to do it, but I still enjoy TikToks though. I like watching that shit, especially when it comes up my Twitter.
The memes, yeah.
So I get to watch the best TikToks when it becomes popping. So I don't
the compilations.
Exactly. That shit makes me fucking die laughing. But
yeah.
TikTok's so weird though, because I'll see people, they go, oh, I have like, I don't know, 200,000 followers, but those followers aren't representative of the views that they get in terms of their videos. Like some of their videos will get like 700 views, and the next one will get 30,000, and then another one will get 3 million.
Up and down,
and another one will get like 100 views. I'm like, what the fuck? What's the point of these followers? Like, they literally don't do anything.
They don't. Like, the algorithm's weird.
Yeah.
Like you don't get notified when a person that you follow posts a new TikTok. It's just like like Facebook. Like you just
keep scrolling. That content part's a little weird. Like I like to be a little more selective instead of having to fish and scroll through a gajillion things.
Yeah.
But I think that's a preference. That's a taste thing.
It is. Yeah. So, it's just the platform itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of different apps coming out. Like my buddy David Choi, you met with him, but you know, David Choi's coming out with this app called Taco, which is going to be pretty fucking
wait for
dope.
that.
Yeah, I mean it's a social media platform that I think is going to do really well. Like I'm behind it. I think it's really dope.
Me too.
Yeah, it's going to be fun for a lot of people.
Now with TikTok out of the way, I'm definitely going to jump on that.
So what's your next move? I mean, you've gone through a whole shit ton of trials and tribulations, and now you're 24. Yes. So what's your next move now?
Like career-wise or
career-wise,
just, like,
everything, love, life, whatever. What you thinking about?
So, definitely did a lot of thinking during this pandemic. You know, I moved into my own apartment in January.
Damn.
And I have a dog now. So definitely living the fullest adult life. Learning a lot about myself. I still live really, really, really close to my mom, my family. So I still get to see them very often, but still have like my own space. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I think my next moves, honestly, I think I was like kind of going through like an early quarter life crisis the past 2-3 years. And now I just really want to like enjoy the journey of learning to accept myself for who I am and all of my past trials and tribulations. That's my biggest goal, just to like, find peace.
Who do you have any like close friends that you kick it with? And
yeah,
well, that's good.
I have a few. Been very, very lucky, and yeah, like I've always been very surrounded with really good people. That's definitely something I've been blessed with all my life, and I'm very, very thankful for that. But like career wise, like I do stream on Twitch, and I've been writing for Korean artists, so like I'm still in that industry, but more behind the scenes. So it's like real chill, and I just get the paychecks rolling. You know, I'm just like, I like this. So yeah, like I still do music, and I think I have a lot of fun with it because I love songwriting, and it's a passion that I developed since I was like 14 years old, and definitely tapped into that artistry while I was in Korea, actually, because like going through all that life shit, I was able to really find my outlet to express myself through writing. And so definitely carried over the years and worked on my craft real hard, and now I'm like, I have some pretty cool artists up my sleeve that I've written for, and so I'm just continuing to do that, having the next single, next huge K-pop star singing my song. That's just like my main goal. And then like, of course, acting, but like kind of on pause right now.
Oh, that's just from the pandemic going on right now. So acting is one of those things. I feel like acting is one of those, that shit's so fucking hard, man. Like to get into like the mind state of an actor, like you have to really fucking love this shit, man. Like acting is something you really have to love for the opportunity to do something that you may like, the chance that you'll pop off and make a gajillion dollars off of that shit is fucking slim to none. It's a very small fucking handful.
It really is.
And you know, you're like, oh, you have a lot of friends who are on TV shows. Yeah, but they're not rich. Yeah, I mean,
no, there's a reason why we're called struggling actors.
Yeah, like just because you see somebody on a TV show, unless they're like on a really popular TV show and they're series regulars, it's not like that, you know. And how many TV shows can you name off the top of your head that you really, really enjoy that's going on right now? And how many slots are there?
Yeah,
you know. And I think like that whole acting aspect is just so difficult because it's like being criticized. Or not even criticized. It's like you don't know what the fuck you're fucking up on, and you get no feedback, and you walk out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And it's like, figure it out. I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean? And you have to figure it out with your acting coaches, and it's like it's
a mystery all the time.
I had a conversation with this guy named Jesse, and he's in Narcos, and came on the podcast, and we had a dope conversation, and he was kind of telling me about the outlook of acting, and kind of being able to kind of put your own spin and taste of stuff that sometimes it makes it feel like you don't have a lot of control in these things, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the roles that you're going on. But you know, acting is such a grind, and it's such a process that there are people who do it for 30, 40 years and they never pop off, and they still continue to do it because they love it so much.
That's true dedication right there, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know if I got that. I can't do that. Like, I can't do that shit at all. Like, I enjoy acting if it's something very particular that I really, really fucking like.
For sure.
But if it's me having to go on these auditions, like, I don't mind auditions. They don't scare me anymore. It's just like, I just go in and I see what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
But the hard part about it is just like, I dread it a lot because I don't like it. And I think that's like the bigger realization for me was when I was going to these auditions. I was like, okay, I was scared for the first two. After the first two, you just scabbed over. I just go in, out, in, out, in, out, call back, and you don't get it. It's like, what the fuck is with these fucking callbacks?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, stop calling me fucking back unless you're gonna give me this role.
You know? It's so hard, and then you get pinned, and you're like, wait, I think I have a chance getting this.
That's
like,
the worst.
Whoa.
Like, don't even fucking pin me. Like, just tell me yes or no. Like, I don't want to hear any of this shit.
Yes or no.
Yeah, like I've had some. It kind of like brings your hope up, and then they fucking crush you.
Oh man, that's why we have the thickest skin for sure.
Yeah, you just kind of got to smile with it and move on. I mean,
yeah, I think honestly, it's like I've kind of learned to just enjoy the process, like, and just not really expect anything. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard. I still struggle with it a lot, but that's why we have like other outlets of creativity that we can, like, I don't know how actors just only do acting and they have like their day job. Like, I don't know how they do that. Because like I need to do other things to keep myself busy and my mind off of like the audition I just went on.
It's hard, man. Just kind of, I don't understand how, I mean, I do get it, but there's only been, I think like every time I went on an audition, there was only one thing that I liked out of the whole year when I was going back to back auditions for all these series regular stuff. Yeah. I only liked one script, and I somehow had to pretend I had to like 80 of these things, 80 or 90 of these things. And I'm like,
it happens a lot. There's just so much content out there. And now that with like, you know, new media and all that stuff.
Yeah. And it was hard for me. I think that's the reason why I know that I'm not an actor's actor, is because I've had the opportunity to do things that I enjoyed. But then when it came to stuff that I had to act in, that I was fighting for a role I didn't care about, it was super hard, because I feel like sometimes for an actor, I just want to book anything, and I just want to perform. I don't have that. I want to perform stuff and act in stuff that I actually give a fuck about. So it's very difficult. So it's like that's why I enjoy indie films a lot. Yeah. Like if there's an indie film, if there's a script that I like and I enjoy, I'll do whatever I can to be in it. It's not going to pay much, but I like that. And that's the hard part.
The heart of the content.
Yeah. So it's very difficult. Okay. Well, guys, that wraps up this episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. Megan, where can they find you?
You can find me at Hello Megan Lee on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and
everything.
Now, soon Taco.
I know. So wait, so you've gotten your handle on everything?
Pretty much, yeah.
How? You have such a common fucking name. What the hell? That's nuts.
I have my ways.
That's nice. You're so fucking lucky. Yeah. Well, guys, you can catch the Genius Brain Podcast every Thursdays and Sundays, and we will see you all next time. Peace.
Thanks for having me.
Cool.